Hello everybody, hope you guys are doing well. So this is the first video that you are going to be getting, and as we discussed on Friday, you will be getting these videos the day before, right? So you're seeing this today, Sunday. We are going to be discussing this content in class tomorrow, and then you'll be doing some sort of assignment and assessment on this content. So we discussed how that's going to happen. And you will be getting videos or articles or different types of content the day before each class so that you can do it on your own, follow along with the guided notes that you have. They are attached to this message as well on Google Classroom. That way you are prepared for class tomorrow. All right, so this is the first one, but you are going to be seeing this pretty much every day of the year in some form. Okay, so the way that this works is you will have the PowerPoint here. You're going to hear me talk. I have my pen that I will be able to draw on and write. And if you hear that barking, that is my dog who will bark sometimes. So just try to ignore him because, sometimes he wants to go out in the backyard or he's hungry or something. So if you hear some barking, I'm going to try and keep it to a minimal, but I can't help it all of the time. All right, so let's get started with the content. So we are starting with our ecology unit, right? Ecology. And the first topic that we're going to be talking about in ecology is factors in the environment, right? And the first factor that we have in our environment is something called abiotic, right? Abiotic factors. So what are abiotic factors? Abiotic means non-living. All right. So anytime you hear the term abiotic, you are going to think of anything that you might find in an ecosystem, in an environment that is not alive, right? So examples of those can be wind, rain, humidity, temperature, pollution, radiation. Things also like water, they are not alive. Blink, really? He's playing with his bone and he's making a lot of noise. He's quite annoying sometimes. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna keep this in here. Sometimes I would just stop the video and then redo it, but I think it makes for some comic relief. So I'm gonna keep going. All right. So abiotic: water, light, minerals, air, and soil. Right. So pretty much anything you could think of in some sort of ecosystem, some sort of environment that contributes to the environment but isn't alive. Right, so everything we just mentioned here, you could see in any environment on Earth, and they all help make up that environment. They all help contribute to the overall feel of that environment, but they aren't alive. All right, that's abiotic, non-living. Okay, biotic, on the other hand, are the second type of factor, and these are living. So anytime you hear biotic factors, you are talking about living factors. So that is plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, protists, right? These are all living things. Humans are, of course, living, right? So any type of living thing that occupies an environment is known as biotic factors. So it's really important that you know the definition and that you're able to provide examples for each abiotic and biotic, because that is going to come up frequently, okay? Now, the good thing about looking at these videos, by the way, which I forgot to mention, is you can always pause them. You can, go back to them if you need a review. So you're going to notice that sometimes on videos, I'm going to move a little quick. I'm not going to go too fast, but I'm going to go through the content, explain what I need to explain, and then move forward. And I could do that because, again, you are able to pause, you're able to rewind, you're able to go back and miss any and listen or see anything that you might have missed the first time around. So it's right here for you at all times. All right, symbiotic. So these are relationships, right? Symbiotic relationships, okay? And symbiotic means that there is a relationship occurring between two biological organisms, okay? Two biological organisms. Where they live and interact very closely. So the whole idea about symbiotic relationships or symbiosis is that they have to live and interact with one another. right? So these are not, there isn't going to be a symbiotic relationship between a tiger and a lion that live on opposite sides of the country, right? Because they are too far away to interact with one another. They don't even know of one another's existence. So symbiotic relationships really have to do with the closeness and the relationship between different organisms. There are 3 types of symbiotic relationships. The first one is called mutualism. Mutualism is when both organisms will benefit from the relationship. You have 2 organisms interacting with one another, and that interaction benefits both of them. Mutualism. Your second is called commensalism. All right? Commensalism is where one species will benefit and one species remains the same. And what that means is that in a commensalism relationship, one species benefits from being in that relationship, while the other species does not benefit, but also does not get harmed. So it's not a negative, but it's not a positive. It's kind of just a whatever. It doesn't really affect that species at all. Your third relationship, parasitism. This is where one organism benefits and the other is harmed, right? So that's like a parasite. Think of parasites that you might know of, right? We're going to go through a couple of examples. Parasites are, of course, experiencing parasitism relationships. One organism benefits in that relationship, the other is harmed. Okay? So these are the symbiotic relationships and the definitions of them. So let's go and talk about a little bit about a few examples for each. Okay. So the first is mutualism, which we spoke about. Here is an example of mutualism. We're looking here at rhinos, right? There's rhinos and there are these oxpecker birds. Notice that the birds are sitting on top of the rhino. So this is an example of mutualism. Why? The oxpecker bird gets to live on the rhino and eat all of the insects that are on that rhinoceros. So those birds benefit from this relationship because they have a space to live, but they also have easy access to food. They don't have to search for food and insects. It's right there on the back of the rhino. Okay? The rhino benefits from this relationship because now they get to get rid of all of those insects. They don't have to worry about trying to get those insects off. They're not bothered by them anymore because the birds are eating them. So here's a mutualistic relationship because both of these organisms benefit from the relationship. Commensalism. This is where one benefits and one does not benefit, but also does not get harmed. There is no change. Here is an example of egrets, which are these birds, and cattle, or cows. The egrets follow the cattle while the cattle graze on the grass. So the cows and cattle will move along and eat the food that they have on the grass. They eat the grass, they just walk along and eat. The egrets follow them. Why do they do that? Because the egrets have learned that the cattle... Oh, stop it. Stop barking. Come here. The egrets will learn that as the cattle move, they kick up insects from the dirt. They're so heavy that as they move, they kick up insects, they kick up dirt where there are worms and other types of things. And those birds are now able to eat those things very easily. They don't have to look for it. It's right there for them. But why is this commensalism? It's commensalism because the cattle are going to graze no matter what. They don't care about the birds. They walk around and eat no matter what. So the birds just are taking advantage of this situation. But the cattle get nothing out of it. Okay? Commensalism. The next one is parasitism, right? That's the last one we learned. So one example of parasitism are fleas and ticks that live on a dog, right? Dogs will sometimes get infested with fleas or ticks. Fleas and ticks are both parasites. They live on the animal and feed off of it. So this is parasitism because the fleas or ticks are obviously benefiting. They get to live on a dog. They get to suck the blood, get nutrients. That's beneficial for them. They get to live. The dog is harmed, okay, because they're obviously now infested with fleas. They're infested with ticks. They're losing blood. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. They are being harmed by it, which is why it is parasitism, okay? I want you to think about this challenge question, because this is one of the things that we're going to do tomorrow in class when we discuss this content. Why do you think these types of relationships have to exist in nature? How come organisms interact with one another? Why do we have these symbiotic relationships? And what might happen if we didn't? All right, guys, so we are going to be done for today's video. Please make sure you filled in your notes corresponding to this. Tomorrow we're going to go over it. We're going to answer our challenge question. We're going to talk a little bit more about relationships. Hope you have a great rest of your day.